Hello dear students. Now I am going to show you the contents of the posterior mediastinum. So I'll give you an orientation. This is superior aspect. This is inferior. The lungs and the heart have been removed already. So here you have the diaphragm. This is the diaphragm. Okay. So below this is the abdominal cavity. So you have part of thoracic cavity here and part of the abdominal cavity. Here is the phrenic nerve that supplies the diaphragm. So this is the left phrenic nerve. Okay. This structure here, this is the esophagus. This is the thoracic esophagus. As you can see, the tubular structure, esophagus. So that's the content of posterior mediastinum, right? So here you have the vagus nerve running in relation, close relation to the esophagus. So you have the vagus nerve here, the right vagus nerve, and you have the left vagus nerve. Okay. So this is the esophagus, the thoracic part of the esophagus, and the esophagus passes within the diaphragm through the esophageal opening, which is present at the level of T10 vertebra, and then it becomes the abdominal esophagus. So here it will continue and continue with the stomach. So this is the esophagus. Okay. This structure here, this is the thoracic aorta, the descending thoracic aorta. Okay, the descending thoracic aorta. That is the continuation of the arch of aorta. So it descends on the left side of the vertebral column. This is the vertebral column with the thoracic vertebrae in the intervertebral discs. So this is the descending thoracic aorta. The thoracic aorta becomes the abdominal aorta after passing through the aortic hiatus of the diaphragm at the level of T12 vertebra. The descending thoracic aorta. This one. Okay. So this is the esophagus. Now this structure here, this is the azygos vein. Okay, this is the azygos vein. So you can see the posterior intercostal veins opening into the azygos vein. The azygos vein. So on the left side we have the hemiazygos and the accessory hemiazygos veins. So this is the accessory hemiazygos veins, this one. So you can see it opens to the azygos vein at the level of T7 vertebra, and below this, over here, this is the hemiazygos vein. This is the hemiazygos vein. So accessory hemiazygos, hemiazygos. On the right side, azygos vein. The azygos vein forms the arch and then it opens into the superior, drains to the superior vena cava. So that's the azygos system of veins. This is right, this is left. So on the right side is the azygos vein. To its left, behind the descending thoracic aorta, above is the accessory hemiazygos, below is the hemiazygos veins. You see this one more structure here, this one, this is the thoracic duct, this beaded structure here, this is the thoracic duct, the largest lymphatic duct. Okay, thoracic duct. Okay, right. So these are the structures in the posterior mediastinum. And yes, there is also the sympathetic chain. See here, you have this is the sympathetic chain. Okay, so show it on the other side. See here, no, this side is better. So it consists of the ganglionated chains. These are the thoracic ganglia, these enlargements here, 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 connected by the nerve fibers. So this forms the sympathetic chain, the thoracic part of sympathetic chain, right? So here you have the greater splanchnic nerve. This is the greater splanchnic nerve. Okay, so here you have the lesser splanchnic nerve, and here this is the least splanchnic nerve. Okay, the greater splanchnic nerve, lesser splanchnic nerve, and the least splanchnic nerves. So these are the nerves, these are medial branches of the thoracic part of sympathetic chain, right? So these are the contents of posterior mediastinum. What are they? We have the esophagus, we have the vagus nerve running in relation to the esophagus, okay, the right and the left vagus nerves, and then you have the descending thoracic aorta, this one. Here you got the azygos vein, okay. On the left side here we have the accessory hemi-azygos vein and the hemi-azygos vein. Hemi-azygos is relatively thicker than the accessory azygos. I hope you can see. So this is azygos vein, okay, this one, this is the azygos vein. Accessory hemi-azygos, this is hemi-azygos veins, and this structure here, this one, this is the thoracic duct, okay, thoracic duct. And here we have the thoracic part of sympathetic chain, greater splanchnic nerve, have the lesser splanchnic nerve, and the least splanchnic nerves. Okay, so yes, that's the posterior mediastinum. Let's have a look at the heart, which has the contents of superior mediastinum with it. So here you have the arch of aorta. This is the arch of aorta, begins as continuation of ascending aorta. Here the arch of aorta continues down as the descending aorta. Here this one, descending aorta, continues as descending aorta, which we saw in the posterior mediastinum. Now what are the branches from the arch of aorta? So you have the brachiocephalic trunk, right, the brachiocephalic trunk. So on the right side, the brachiocephalic trunk, then you have the left common carotid, you have the left subclavian arteries. And one more important structure here, the ligamentum arteriosum. This is the ligamentum arteriosum, which connects the left branch of pulmonary trunk with the arch of aorta, a remnant of ductus arteriosus. Okay, so here we have the pericardium. In pericardium there are a couple of things that you need to see. One is the transverse sinus and the other one is the oblique sinus. Okay, so the transverse sinus is a sinus, that is a pericardial sinus, that is present between the arterial end and the venous ends of the heart. So when I pass my fingers here, okay, so my finger is now in the transverse sinus, transverse pericardial sinus. So in front of my finger is the arterial end, so the pulmonary trunk, arch of aorta with its branches. Behind my finger will be the superior vena cava, inferior vena cava, and the four pulmonary veins, So between the arterial end in arterial ends anteriorly and the venous ends posteriorly, we have the transverse sinus. And then the other sinus is the oblique sinus. This is the oblique sinus, right, that is present in the base of the heart. This oblique sinus is between the or within the venous ends. So you have the superior inferior pulmonary veins, right and left. So here you have the superior vena cava, you have the inferior vena cava. So between the superior vena cava, inferior vena cava, right and left pulmonary veins, you have one passage here, that is the oblique sinus. So this is the oblique sinus, here is the transverse sinus. Okay, so the transverse sinus is between the arterial ends anteriorly, venous ends posteriorly. The oblique sinus is here between the venous ends, superior vena cava, inferior vena cava, right and left pulmonary veins. Here the oblique sinus. And one more important structure is the ligamentum arteriosum, that connects the arch of aorta with the pulmonary trunk. Now look at this heart. So you have the coronary arteries here, right? This is the right coronary artery, okay, and here is the left coronary artery. The left coronary artery, its branch anterior interventricular artery, accompanied by the great cardiac vein. Here is the right coronary artery. This one is the right coronary artery. Okay, and here this is the diaphragmatic surface. You have the posterior interventricular artery. This is the posterior interventricular artery. This is the crux of the heart. So the crux, you have the anastomosis between the right and left coronary arteries, and also we have the coronary sinus. So this is where you have the artery. Anastomosis between the right and left coronary artery, and the coronary sinus is located here. This is the coronary sinus, which opens into the right atrium. Here you see the opening of the coronary sinus. Posterior interventricular artery, anterior interventricular artery. Here is the circumflex branch of left coronary artery. This is the origin of left coronary artery. Very short trunk passing in this direction is the left anterior descending LAD branch, and here will be the circumflex branch. Okay, the right coronary artery. Okay, thank you.